say that, okay.
Don't you have internet then?
Yeah, but it's, I'm running behind. I was very distracted. Ian and we've been working today on, I'm trying to film some stuff. And then I was picking stuff, so then I got distracted, but I'm here with a whiteboard, and I have, what are these called? Dry erase marker, because we're gonna talk about farm planning. Do you want to say anything, Ian?
Hi.
All right, so I really should have cleaned that first. Okay, the plan for live today is okay, sorry, the camera's a little shaky. I'm trying to think of the words here. I engaged on a post on Facebook about farm planning, and then I had a conversation with Ian about it, and it made me think that maybe I have a clear way of explaining what it is that I do when I like come up with farm plans. Yeah. I think I know, because there's a theme to these live videos, and there's a theme kind of running behind a lot of the videos, a lot of the stories on our channel, which is that what our goal here on the farm is to find a way to be a profitable farm business, right? And the reason why why we have such like a narrow focus on getting the farm business to the point that it's profitable is it's not until the farm is profitable that it's actually sustainable, right? So we want to continue being farmers, let it be flower farmers like what we're doing now, or vegetable farmers like what we're doing before. We want to be able to continue being a farm forever. We want to continue being a farm until our health and our age makes it so that we can't keep up with it. And to do that, we need to be making enough income that we can afford to be farmers, right? And so from the beginning, we always said, yes, it's a math class. Someone's like, oh no, math. We're going to be doing math, because it all comes down to math. So from the beginning, we said it was going to take us 5 years to, it's going to take time, it's going to take investment, it's going to take energy, it's going to take effort before it can get to the point that it's profitable. But once we get there, then we will be able to, keep it going for a long time. And this year is year 5 on the farm. And so that is an important year, because this is the year that we said we wanted to see the numbers starting to come together for us. And we're not there yet, right? And so, Ian and I are having conversations, right? There's like kind of a theme running in the farmers market vlogs that we're doing, that the farmers market just isn't really selling enough, right? Like, we're worried because we're not selling $1,000 at the market, and we need to be doing that. So what I want to do with you guys is I want to walk you through farm planning to show you why it's so important that we are doing that. And basically my epiphany, like in the conversation that I was having with Ian is it's not the plan that matters itself, right? It's there is no, oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Kelly. I love the little stickers. Thank you so much. That's so generous. So it's not the plan that matters. It's no like single detail in the plan that matters. What matters is that you create a plan that has the potential for success, and then you work towards that success, right? So, and this makes more sense. So, in the description, I included like the thing that I wrote down, and and it was like the thing that Ian and I were engaging on. And the thing that I wrote down was kind of like, I have to hit $1,000. This is like a summary of it. I have to hit $1,000 in order to be able to cover my costs down at the farmer's market. And if I don't make $1,000 at my farmer's market, then my business is never going to achieve a sustainable level, right? My labor costs, my production costs, my investment costs, all of that has to be at least equal to my sales. And if my sales are less than that number, then the business is slowly bleeding out. And if I do more than that number, then that's profit. That's extra money that we get to make as a business, which is great, because what if there's a bad year, right? Like, making some profit is a good thing. You want to do more than just cover your cost. And so the reason why I wrote this post in the first place is because I see a lot of people not knowing what the number is that they need to sell, right? So going to a farmer's market and selling out on your flowers is incredible, but if you needed to make $1,000 and you only brought $500 down to your market and you sold out, even though you are a success in the sense that you sold all of your flowers, you are not building a successful business, because for your business to be a success, you needed to actually sell 1,000, not the 500. And so if you don't know what you need to be a success, then you don't know if you're working towards being a success, and you don't know if you're doing things that are potentially like leading to your business never being able to be a success, right? Like if you don't know what that number is, then you're not going to know when you're failing to reach that number. And the reason why I want to make a live video about this, the reason why I want to talk about this and I want people to think about this, is I know that a lot of people talk to us about the fact that they're in their early days of flower farming, and year 5. So we've been around in farm communities for long enough now at this point that we've seen farmers come and go, and I've seen the pattern. Ian's bringing in like a bunch of flowers that I picked, and it's very distracting because it looks so good. I was picking like status and amobium for like 3 hours, which is part of why I lost track of time doing it, but there's like a mountain. Ian, it looks so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even when it's all facing away from you?
I know. You get here. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to include you in my distraction. I'm going to flip my camera so you guys can all see what... I don't know. Maybe it's not going to work. Let's see. There. So what Ian is doing is he's piling up all the flowers here. And it sounds so good. Sounds so good. And this is only like...
Is everybody looking at our camera?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's like you're the YouTuber.
I know. We're all set up here because we're doing a bunch of filming. Okay. Well, that is very distracting, which is part of the hard part. That's part of the hard part about staying focused on being a business. The fun parts of the business, all the joyful stuff is easy to get distracted by. Okay, the point that I was trying to make before I got distracted by flowers is I've seen a lot of people with a lot of energy and happiness and excitement come into farming, and what happens is the first year it's all new, it's all fun, it's all amazing, and people try really hard, and what you sell in your first year really doesn't matter. You're just like learning, and you're having so much fun learning, and then in year two you don't have quite as much energy, things aren't new, you're not learning as much stuff. And you start to realize, hey, this actually is kind of work. This isn't just fun, it also is work. And then by year three, people start actually taking a look at the books, and they realize, hey, I've been working really hard for 3 years now, and I'm making $2 an hour. I don't know why I'm doing this. I can't keep doing this. And then they close up their farms, and their farms, stop existing. And it's really easy for that to happen if you're focused just on the growing, if you're focused just on, oh, thank you so much, Joey. These stickers entertain me so much. These funny little people. So if you're just really focused on the growing, if you're really focused on being down at the market, if you're focused on how hot out it is in Missouri, all of those things can distract you from being focused on the numbers. And farming, there's a lot of wheels going at the same time, right? Especially when you are a farm that's selling down at the farmer's market, right? Because you're producing, you're two businesses. You're a farm business, and then you're also a retail food business, right? And so, all of that can be really difficult to learn how to do and keep track of and everything. And so if you're not focused on achieving, if you're not focused on a path that's going to lead you to success on the business end, nothing that you do on the farm and in the field is going to get you there. And you might be able to not realize how the numbers are not adding up until you kind of get to this point, get to a breaking point. And so, I'm not saying that farm businesses, if they focus on being a profitable business, are necessarily gonna be there in year three. But if you know where your business is at year three, rather than it kind of whoa, being this wake up call, because like I said, going back to it, if you need to sell $1,000 at the farmer's market and you've been bringing $500 and selling out, you would have been spending 3 years feeling like you were a major success. But the reality is you've been losing $500 a week in costs. And by after doing that for 3 years, the wake up call of I thought I was really successful to I've sat down with my books and my numbers and I've realized that potentially the situation is very dire. That's going to be really startling and really hard, and it's going to be a big hurdle to overcome. Okay. I know we're at 15 minutes here, and I don't want this to take forever, because I love thinking about numbers, so I could just like go off about numbers nonstop. But I kind of brought the whiteboard. What I want to do is I want to break down kind of what I was saying in like the comment that I make. And this is this is good for me. Like I need to do this because of the fact that we need to be asking ourselves some really hard questions about our farmers market this year. So like walking through the math with you guys can maybe like show you why I'm thinking about these things, as well as show you how to do it if you too are thinking of starting a farm business. Okay, so the problem with the farmers market is the farmers market can be very expensive. It feels very accessible, like the farmers market, because it has a very low barrier to entry, right? So like going down to the farmers market, you don't need to buy like you don't need to rent a storefront. You don't need to commit to 7 days a week of selling. It's a day, right? Like I can just take a day off on the weekend and go down there and sell some things. And this is true, and this is one of the things that is incredible about the farmers market. But at the same time, the farmers market takes a lot of time, right? So for us, our farmers market is a 5-hour farmers market. It's open from 8 to 1, but that's just the hours that we're there and selling. At our farmers market, you have to be there at least an hour. Like that's like their cutoff, right? You have to be there an hour. How early? What time do you leave?
I try to get there for 6 and it opens at 8.
So you leave at 5:30.
Yeah, I try to leave around 5:45 if I'm there a little bit after 6.
And like buy a coffee.
Yeah, but if I'm there like a little bit after 6, that's kind of what I'm aiming for.
Yeah. Okay, so the market starts at 8. Ian leaves our house at 5:30.
But my alarm is set for 4:50.
Ian wakes up
after 4.
Ian wakes up at 4:15, which makes me feel very sorry for him, because that's a good time to go to bed, but not a good time to wake up, in my opinion.
A little bit of that time is video production.
Okay, so Ian leaves at 5:30. It's a half an hour from our farm to where our farmers market is. He gets there 2 hours before the market starts. No matter how small the display is, you have to be there at least an hour before the market starts. That's the rules. And honestly, like you need that time. Like setting up at a farmer's market takes a long time because all the cars are coming in. It's a traffic nightmare. Ian, at this point, we've been doing farmers markets for 5 years. He would probably be able to set up in an hour and a half, right?
Oh, I can set up
without if you weren't filming.
I can set up in 45 minutes.
Even with everything and like
the flowers, ready
for
the flowers set up a lot easier than the veggies. The veggies, yeah. I get there at 6 and I'd barely be done by 8.
Yeah, so when we had veggies, the display was a lot more difficult to set up. The flowers are pretty simple, right? Because we basically have 20 buckets. Ian sets up tables and just puts the buckets out on the table.
And if we on the opposite end, if we sell out of flowers, takedown is easy. But even still, it takes me...
It's like a half an hour at the fastest for takedown, and then you have to deal with the traffic.
To get my truck into the market and stuff again, it's about 40 minutes at the fastest, at the absolute fastest.
Yeah. And an hour is like reasonable to say.
Yeah, usually,
right?
Usually it's about 50 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so we go a little bit early because Ian wants to get all set up. Customers start coming into our farmers market, like what, 7:40, right? Maybe sometimes 7:30.
Other vendors buy from us frequently.
Yeah.
So you start getting
everyone sets up and then they wander around. Oh, Ian's bringing a cat for everyone's enjoyment. But yeah, I think it's fair to say you want to be there an hour and a half early when you take out a half an hour for Ian to film things. You know,
nobody
it's-
lives right next to
It's
the
a half an
market.
hour to the market. You know, like, and this is one thing, even if you did live right next to the market, it's still going to take you time to get to the market, right? Like, it's, even if you were
Yeah, you
like
still have to
a
pack up your
2-minute drive, you know, it takes like, that would actually be like 10 minutes, right? Because you have to get into your car, you have to start your car, you have to drive there, you have to like wait in the traffic to get into the market. And that's just driving, right? So we've said Ian's like 2 hours before the market. Then there's pack up to get all the things into the vehicle. I don't know, you do like a half an hour before and then like a half an hour in the morning, half an hour the night before. Yeah, because Ian has to organize all of, like,
Go through the
I have to charge my my payment, my card reader. I have to charge my cell phone that I run the card reader with. I have to make sure that I have my float. I need to find the business cards. I need to find, you know, all the bits and pieces, right? Like, you know, that right there can take a half an hour. Get tables into the back of the truck, get our tent into the back of the truck, and then in the morning he has to actually take out of the cooler all the flowers and put those into the truck. He has to be careful with them. There's like a specific it's not like, oh, just chuck it in, right? They have to get put in carefully. You know, so we're now talking like 3 extra hours in addition to the 5-hour market. And then Ian's saying fastest that he's ever out of there is like 45 minutes, but he's often like an hour, and then another half an hour for driving. So like 9.5-hour day is kind of what we're talking, you know. And we have a 5-hour market. Some people have a 4-hour market, but if you have a 4-hour market, the 9.5-hour day isn't like exponentially shorter. It's only an hour shorter. So now it's an 8.5-hour day. So we throw the number 20 at labor. It's a nice even number. It is what labor costs on the cheap end of things around here. It's just good for math. So if Ian's, let's be generous, Ian's doing the market. He's spending $180 in labor to do the market. And then on top of that, there also is the cost of the market itself. Our farmers market has a $50 market fee, right? So there's the $50 plus the $180 that is the labor, which would then, let's write this down. So market is this in the camera? Okay, so like 180 labor, right? Like $50 fee, right? So that's like $230. But that's not the end of the cost to the market. You know, there's all the equipment that you have to buy for the market. There's the gas to get to the market. There's, you know, wear and tear on your vehicle. There's the having to add markets to your insurance policy. There is, you know, there's a lot more to markets than just the cost of your time and the cost of your market fee, right? So even though this is 230, and that's feeling like a lot of money, you know, if we rounded up to 250, we would probably be underestimating how much the market is actually costing us. But we're going to say 250 because it's a nice number to work with. Okay, so the market is costing me $250, right? So this is how much it costs to go to market if I sell 0 or if I sell $100,000, right? This number doesn't change, but what this number costs per bouquet changes depending on what your overall sales are. So I like from the beginning, I'd like to know this number because this number has helped me understand if I can afford to wholesale or not, right? So anyone, if you have this number, if this is your number, that like all my other market friends, right? Everyone who goes to my market, this is their number, right? Like people can say to me, no, the market only cost me $50. People can say that to me at my market neighbors, but they're lying to themselves. The market costs at least this much, if not more, right? No one is. I mean, I guess sure. Maybe some people are spending less labor. Maybe some people, I don't know, they can drive there in 10 minutes, and so that saves them 40 minutes on us, and they only go an hour before, so that saves an hour on us, but they're not going to be far off from that, right? So this is your retail costs. And so if you go to if I go to my farmer's market and I bring $500 worth of product and I sell everything, I'm a sellout. That means that I can afford to wholesale my bouquets for half price, right? That means that if there was a business who wanted to buy bouquets for me for $10 instead of $20, or it would actually be $9 because my bouquets are $18 because there's $2 of tax. If I sell $500 at the market, it is costing me $250, right? So half of $500 is $250, and so that means that my retail costs are that I am selling my bouquets at wholesale to myself for $9, right? If we go to my market though, and I sell and we bring $1,000 worth of bouquets and we sell $1,000 worth of bouquets, then my retail cost is only 25%, right? And that means that I can afford to wholesale my bouquets to other people for, what would that be, $13.50, right? So that's 25% off of the $18. I can afford to sell bouquets for $13.50. And this number is important for me to know because it tells me first, like, hey, like maybe you should consider wholesaling, right? Because I'm always like, you need to keep these numbers in mind. But it also like sets off warning bells for me, right? If I'm like, I know I can't afford to sell my bouquets for $9, and I am selling my bouquets to myself for $9, it means that Serena, the farmer in the field, is losing money, right? It means that Serena, the farmer in the field, isn't getting paid what they need, right? So, okay, so this is how much the market cost, right? Okay, the next number that we need to think about, because this is just retail. This is retail costs. The next number that we need to think about is like, what does it cost to make a bouquet, right? And I don't have all of my numbers to be able to do this math. I don't know my costs because I still am not yet at the point that I've tracked all of my labor hours, all my expenses, all my fees to have this final number, right? My hope would be as we move forward in the years, I will get closer to that. But until I haven't been considering. I've been considering flowers as a product. I'm like, flowers. Whereas before, because when we were doing the veggie farm, I was like, flowers get done at the same time, they get done in the same way. It made sense for me to kind of clump the labor into that way, to just be like, what do I spend on flowers? But in my veggie production, I had to be like, oh, how much does it cost me to grow carrots? How much time do I spend planting carrots and weeding carrots and watering carrots, and how much time are they in the bed, and therefore, and how much does it cost to harvest them? So I started to look more closely at my veggie crops, and I haven't done that yet with the flowers, right? Because what it comes down to, and like, fair enough, you'll hear me talk about this all the time. This flower is pure money, right? Sunflowers, low labor, fast to harvest, fast to arrange, and they sell for a good price. This I make good money on. But then there's other things like Rudbeckia, which are great, and I use a lot of it. But I don't know. I don't know about Rudbeckia. I don't know how much time I spend on it. I don't know how profitable it is. I need to crunch the numbers on every single individual crop, right? And then there's always new crops. There's always different things that I'm doing. I got a pile of status. I love the status. Status is amazing. But, today I spent 3 hours picking status. It takes a lot of time. That time, grows fairly easy. It's fairly low maintenance, but it's in the field all year long. And I can tell you that the cost on the blue status and the yellow status is a lot lower than the cost of this apricot status in here, right? This apricot status, it produces half as many stems, and the quality of the stems are not as good as these blue and these yellow status, but I have to do just as much maintenance on the plants, right? So the apricot status, very, very desirable. This I can sell to florists. Florists really like this. I don't know. In my market bouquets, blue status is great. I sell a ton of blue status. It does really well for us. And so for me, blue status is more profitable as a farmer's market bouquet farm. But if this doesn't sell to florists, and this I can sell every single stem of, it doesn't matter that I can produce this for less. If the amount that I produce, I can only sell 50% of what I produce. If this, every single stem that does produce, I can sell, this gets me in the doors for florists. This has people being like, sure, throw on 10. Then if I'm a wholesale business, then this is actually the most profitable status of all, right? So this is why the math is so complicated. Okay, now I'm distracted. This is what I said the problem was, right? This is part of the reason why I'm like, we need a whiteboard. We need to keep me focused, because I can just be like, oh, and then what about this one? And then what about that? Okay. You need to know how much your flowers cost you. I don't know how much my flowers cost. That is what I was trying to say before I started ranting about different profitabilities. Okay, so what I do know though is how much bouquet production costs me. I do know, because I've been doing these farmers, I have like 60 flower only farmers markets under my belt. So I know the numbers kind of behind that. And what it is it takes me 2 full days. It takes me 1 entire day for harvesting and prepping of flowers. And then it takes me an entire day to arrange $1,000 or $1,000 worth of flowers. Though that number might not be. Okay, you know what? The number's wrong, because the truth is I haven't been doing $1,000 markets. I have been making, $1,500 to $1,800 worth of flowers, right? So let's use real numbers. So I'm spending 16 hours to harvest and arrange. 16 hours at $20. It is costing me $320 to make bouquets, right? So that's how much putting the flowers together costs me. Let's say this is for a $1,500, right? This much labor for this much product. This is though just to harvest and arrange labor, right? The number that I don't have, which, kind of makes it hard to know exactly how to do this math. And this is why I feel for people, right? Because when you start a farm, you don't have these numbers. You have to estimate these numbers, and you can estimate these numbers completely wrong. So you need to kind of always be revising these numbers. But so the $320 worth of labor, that is harvesting and ranging. In the rest of this is the labor to plant. It's the labor to weed. It's the labor to, water and to make sure that everything's growing well. It's the labor to buy the seeds. It's the labor to start the seedlings. It's the cost of the seeds. It's the cost of the seedling trays. It's the cost of the electricity to grow the seedlings inside. It's the cost of the water. It's the time you spent at your computer doing accounting because you had to pay your taxes. It's the time that you spent doing this flower math, though I usually don't charge out for this. There's all the rest of this time that you spend in running the business. And I don't know exactly what that number is, but I do know that it is a little bit more than the labor to harvest and arrange. And I know that because I am more busy in the spring than I am in the season when everything's planted out, right? So that means that before I'm harvesting and arranging, if I'm still spending more hours, in the first half of the year, then it's safe to make the estimate that, the labor is really there. So I think it's probably safe to estimate when you include, costs like, oh, you're buying landscape fabric, you're buying perennials, you're, my Lysianthus plugs that I'm buying, sure, maybe my status was only, $10 per pack of seeds to plant out a bed, but my cost on the Lysianthus was $1,000, and all those numbers need to balance out. So let's throw out a ballpark that to get $1,500 worth of product, it's going to cost $400 to the business, right? So this means if we add these up, okay, $720. Okay, so it costs me $720 to produce $1,500 worth of product, right? So that means that if I am wholesaling bouquets at 50% off, means that if I'm selling my bouquets to a grocery store for $9 instead of down at the market for $18, and I'm having a bit of an epiphany because I've never actually thought about this, but it means that I can afford to do that, right? Being with the way my farm is currently set up, I probably could, if I could get a contract, if I could find businesses that are willing to purchase $1,500 worth of bouquets, I could afford to sell that for $750 and break even, right? Because an hour and a half of Ian's time at $20 to go half an hour into the grocery store, driving a half. No, you know what? I can't afford it because it's gonna cost Ian to load up $1,500. We already know this number. It's gonna be 45 minutes to load it. To drive is a half an hour, and then so we're at an hour and 15. To unload is gonna take at least 30 minutes, and then to drive back is another 30 minutes. So we're gonna be over let's say 2.5 hours in labor for just delivering this, right? Which is going to be another $50. And then we're also going to have the administrative costs of communicating to the person, maybe that's not going to be 2 hours, but we probably would have to be looking at, maybe some upgrades in our accounting. So I think it's safe to say that like we would need another $50 to sell that. So we'd have to do $820 to be break even for selling $1,500 worth of flowers. But that's still not bad. That means I can sell my bouquets for $10 wholesale if I could find someone who wanted to buy a large volume. Okay, but I'm getting distracted. I'm thinking too much about what, because like I'm doing a walkthrough this also because the market isn't working for us this year. Okay, so the production cost to make the bouquets is $720, right? So, and that is for $1,500 down to the market. So when we then take the flowers down to the market, we have to add our retail cost, right? So now we are spending $970 to bring $1,500 to the market, which is finally getting to my point that if I don't sell $1,000 at the market, my business isn't, I'm losing money, right? If I'm not selling $970 at the market, and we might as well round that up to $1,000, because let's say there's $30 worth of processing fees. If I'm not selling that, then I am not covering something in this list. And if I'm not covering Ian's time at the market, if I'm not covering my time to arrange the flowers, if I'm not covering my time to grow the flowers, then that means that eventually I'm going to reach the point that I'm going to have to stop doing this because farming is my job, right? I am doing this full time. It's not that doing this is a system that I'm doing in addition to my job, right? Like I need this to pay me $20 an hour because I could go to McDonald's and get paid $20 an hour and be guaranteed that year round instead of, hope for it and fail seasonally, like kind of how the farm system is going. So when I go down to the market, and so we're bringing $1,500, right? So when I am going down to the market, I am giving myself the chance to be very profitable, right? Because if I go to the market with $1,500 worth of flowers and we sell all of the flowers, then I'm going to make $500, right? And if I make $500, then maybe I can afford to pay myself $30 an hour instead of $20 an hour, which is nice. Or maybe I can have a little bit of money to take a vacation in the winter instead of having to go get, a part-time job over the winter time when I'm not working on the farm. So I'm there giving myself the chance to the chance for my business to be successful. I'm also going to the market recognizing that $1,000 is the number that I have to hit. If I don't hit $1,000, then even if it's exciting to sell $800 in a day, the reality is that it is not a success, right? Like 800 and this is a comment that we get sometimes in the videos, and like I understand that people like don't know this math, which is kind of why I'm like, oh, like let's like break it down for you guys, because $800 sounds like a lot of money, right? To say like, oh, like I made $800 today, right? If I could say I made $800 today, and it came out of nowhere, like that would be amazing, right? Like zero complaints. But when we go down to the farmer's market and we're like, oh, we only sold $800, people will be like, what are you talking about? You should be so excited. You should be so happy. That's $800 out of nowhere. But the reality is it isn't. The reality is it's the flowers didn't come out of nowhere. They didn't magically land on our table. It cost us money to get them there. And so, okay. So this is flower math, right? And like this, or like this isn't flower math. This is business. This is like understanding the cost of labor and understanding, the cost of retailing versus the cost of wholesaling. And this is just understanding the very basic surface numbers to track the success of your business. And you need to understand this to know what you're aiming for. Because Ian and I, we talked this out, and I thought like it was very clear when I was talking to Ian. He like very much clarified it for me, but now I don't think I'm saying it as clearly as what I said back to him. But my point is, in going to the market, that there's kind of like there's two ways that you can approach this. There's two ways you can approach trying to start a flower farm, right? You can break down these numbers, and then like go for it and be like, I need $1,000, but I'm going to try to sell 1,500 because I'm aiming for profit, and any less than 1,000 is not profit, right? Like, and so then when you go to market, you know what you need to do. If you're not achieving that you need to make changes. You're very focused on where the farm needs to be and how to get there. Or you can just do it without a plan. And I don't want to be dismissive of people who are just going forward without a plan, right? Because like I said, it's taken me time to get this data, right? So if you go to market and your plan is just, my plan in going to market is that I'm going to make $500 worth of flowers for my farmer's market, so I can see how many hours it takes me to sell, to get ready and set up and be at the farmer's market. I'm going to see how many hours it takes me to harvest and arrange, $500. I'm going to see how many hours it takes me to grow these plants on my farm, so that I can then calculate this and have an accurate number for years going forward. That's great. That's a plan. That's that's aiming for success. But the thing that really like stresses me out and makes me nervous is that if you don't aim for the numbers that cover what you need, you can potentially be building a business that is never going to have the potential of being successful, right? And this is my fear, right? And this is why I think this is so important, right? Because if it takes you $250 worth of like to sell at the market, and it takes you $720 to produce, but what you're producing isn't $1,500, what you're producing is $500, and you're bringing the $500 down to the market. If your cost is $720, but you're only bringing $500 to sell, then you're never giving yourself the chance to succeed, right? And what I want is for everyone to have success, right? I don't want anyone to get to that year 3 burnout breaking point where they realize that they've been going to market with $500 for 3 years, and they hadn't even realized that what they were doing that felt so good was actually building a business that could never do what it needed to do for them. I don't, that sucks, right? Like, and it's like, you don't realize it when you're doing it, right? Okay. So there was in the Facebook post where I was like breaking down the market and then being like, so make sure that you bring enough money to cover your labor to the market. So I'm gonna first, I'm trying to think, because we're already at 15 minutes. And like I said, I could go off about business numbers and all this forever. Farmers markets are a big part of the YouTube vids, though, content. Okay, yeah. So, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my problem, me and Ian's Red Roof Family Farms problem, and some of the conversations that we have been having. Because we're year 5, right? We're aiming, we have a plan for success, and I was like, I think that when I was talking about this and with Ian, and when I was saying that, if we don't sell $1,000, our business is like slowly failing. That's something that can cause like a emotional reaction, right? Because like, why are Ian and I doing this if we're not doing this for anything, right? Why are we going? Why are we giving $1,000 of ourselves, and failing to get $1,000 back, right? Does that mean that we personally are failures? Does that mean that like we personally are doing something wrong? And I think that I don't think that anyone is doing anything wrong if the numbers aren't adding up, as long as they are being honest with themselves about the numbers, right? Because trying is always doing the right thing, right? What is the saying? You miss 100% of the balls you don't swing at. I don't know that, but the idea of like, yeah, you miss every shot you don't take, right? And so, like I said, if you're bringing $500 to the market and you need to sell $1,000, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? If you don't try, you're setting yourself up for failure too. So I don't think there's any shame in trying and not achieving what you set out to achieve. Because like, and like, this is me. I'm not a failure, right? Like, just because my market this year isn't doing $1,000 doesn't mean that like I'm failing. It means that I need to make a new plan, right? Because this is just a plan, right? If a plan isn't working, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Like, I say this about growing plants all the time, and I really do mean it, right? Like, mistakes are learning opportunities, right? So needing $1,000 to produce $1,500, if I'm not doing that, if I'm not being able to sell that at my farmer's market, that's just data. That's like great information to know. It means that I need to go back to the drawing board, right? We need to go back and look at those numbers that are showing you about the fact that I can afford to sell $10 bouquets. I just need to find someone who's gonna buy 70, 80 of them to sell at the grocery store, and then I still have a business, right? But I do need, the failure in plans not working out is the failure to recognize that the plan isn't working out and to make changes, right? So these are my numbers. This is real. This year, our farmers market is not doing $1,000, right? And, for context for this, if you guys have been watching the channel, for a few years, last year, we were getting $1,000 or more every single number. And like I said, this is break even, right? When we get more than 1,000, that's profit. That means, and profit can be lots of things. Profit can be, oh, hey, we've paid for ourselves to maybe go out and find a way to sell even more, right? Like, profit gives you opportunities to grow, right? Profit gives you chances to experiment without it having, negative consequences to the business. So last year was really exciting, right? Last year it was like, okay, look, we're doing really well at the farmers market. We can start to break into doing, these other types of sale avenues. And, for our business, the other thing that was the most exciting of all is that the numbers that we were achieving at the farmers market, so the total dollar sales at the farmers market versus the total dollar sales at a roadside stand, the roadside stand was even higher than the farmers market, with last year being the very first year at the roadside stand. And the reason why that was so exciting, back to these numbers, is, so remember, it only cost me $720 to produce $1,500. The reason why I need 1,000 to go to the market is that it cost me $250 to go to the market. Yeah, the roadside stand doesn't cost me $250. The roadside stand probably costs me like $30, maybe $40. The cost of the roadside stand is, the electricity to run the air conditioner in there, which is like 30 cents a day. We've like, I guess there's the cost of the stand itself. But honestly, the amount of money we've sunk into creating our farmers market display, the stand is only cost us about triple of what the farmers market display costs. And the stand is definitely gonna amortize over a longer period than our market display. And what I mean by that is, so the shed that we built, it's very easy to imagine that shed isn't gonna need much maintenance. We designed it so like a coat of paint every few years. Part of the reason why it's so expensive is we bought like hardy board for the siding. We bought like really like brand new doors, right? Like it was built to be a quality product that would last for a long period of time. So it's easy for me to imagine that the roadside stand is pretty much going to be good without any major investments into it for 15 years. Whereas market tents, we are currently market tents, market tables, all those things that don't feel like very much, but actually cost a lot. Like a market tent's like $250, and they're kind of lasting us like 2 years, maybe 3 years. Our tables that we bring down to the market, they just get trashed. They're the same, they cost like $150. They're like 2 to 3 years before they break apart. So the market costs more money than just the cost of being down there. So the roadside stand is very, very exciting because we're doing a lot of sales, right? We're able to, we're doing a little, I think we're saying the numbers on the roadside stand are at about $1,200 a week. Some weeks we're getting it up to $1,500. And then, the cost of selling out of the roadside stand is just incredible for how low the cost is for us. So it's been really valuable. The farmers market, we're frustrated with the farmers market because we're year 4 at the farmers market. It's a really strong farmers market. We're not going to be able to do any better anywhere else. And, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of years. We go to a lot of markets, and it really is starting to seem like maybe we can't be a farmer's market business, right? Maybe we can't be focused. Our number one focus can't be the farmer's market. Maybe what our number one focus needs to be is the roadside stand, right? Maybe we need to try to find a way to grow the roadside stand. Maybe we need to try to double the sales in the roadside stand, try to get it up to $2,500 or $3,000. Maybe what we need to do is build more excitement about the farm, like the actual physical farm itself, and less so, excitement about our flowers that you can get down at the farmer's market, which has kind of been like, the division of our focus. It's like, oh, we have a roadside stand or we're down at the farmer's market. That's been what the business is, right? So there are some things that maybe would make more sense for us to do when we're like crunching these numbers than the farmer's market, right? Because if we go to the farmer's market and it's not covering the cost, it's not paying for itself, we're only getting, an 80%, a 75% return on our costs. Maybe we're better off to, host a on-farm event. And if the on-farm event is only giving us, an 80 or 75% return on our labor costs, but it's then growing the roadside stand sales, right? It's leading, like I was saying, right? If the farmer's market is making us $1,500, but it only costs us $1,000, that doesn't only have to just be $500 in our pocket. That also can be us being able to afford other less profitable ventures on our farm. But we do need to be focused on making sure that everything pays for itself. Because if everything doesn't pay for itself, then it gets dangerous, right? Some things don't need to pay for themselves, right? Like our leftover bouquets, we bring down to the food bank, right? Like that's something that we're happy to do. That doesn't have to pay for itself. But it's easier to do that and not have to worry about what that is costing the business if the business is covering itself. Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to do here with these numbers, so someone was like, yeah, but like what about the farmer's market doesn't have to pay for itself. The farmer's market can like lead to other opportunities. And they're right. And so I actually like in the discussion that I was having, I like broke down another business idea to show that the farmer's market doesn't have to make you money to still have going to the farmer's market make sense for you and your business. But you need to know why it makes sense for you and your business to be able to do it, right? And so we're gonna get rid of these numbers. Okay, so the person, like the idea that I ran with, like this number is still relevant. This number doesn't change for me. So the idea that I kind of ran with to break down another business idea, because I was saying, okay, I have to make $1,000 to cover my costs to go to the farmer's market. But what if my farmer's market maxes out at $500? What if I can only make $500 at my farmer's market? Can it still make sense for me to go to my farmer's market? And the answer to that is yes. You just need to have a plan for how your business will cover its costs, right? So what I was saying is, so you've run the numbers, you figured out it's going to cost you $1,000, and your farmer's market is only going to allow you to sell $500, right? This is great information because you know you cannot build a farmer's market bouquet flower farm business, right? That doesn't mean you can't be a flower farm business. It just means that your business can't be selling bouquets at the farmer's market because if the math doesn't add up, then the math doesn't add up. You need to come up with a new business idea. And maybe that business idea is selling subscriptions, right? So I was like, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to build a subscription business, right? So our plan is we're going to have, this is my pretend subscription business. We're going to sell $25 weekly subscription bouquets, right? And we're going to try to sell 30 of them so that we make $750 a week, right? But we want to make more than $750. We got like some glare coming here. Okay, we want to make that. We want to make $1,000, right? Like we need to get we know the labor for the farm is about $1,000. We need to get those numbers up, right? So we also are going to be selling a $40 subscription, right? Like a big fancy bouquet. We're going to sell 8 of those, right? And these are going to be every second week, right? So then these are, I'm like, what's the math on that? This would be $320, right? So because this is a new business, the odds are we're not going to be able to sign up 30 people every week and 8 people every second week, right? The reason why these are the numbers that we've done is this is your time, this is your capacity, this is your growing space. You can produce, a 1,200, $1,300, in my case, $1,500 worth of flowers off of your farm. You need to get the numbers up to match what you can produce. So this is your breakdown. You're going to start your business. You're going to be selling to your friends and your family. And what you're going to do though is you're going to go to the farmer's market because you need to fill these subscription slots, right? So that every second week you need to be able to make $1,100 worth of flowers because every second week you have your $40. Every second week you have your $40 subscription, right? So that's gonna be a busy week for you. So you're not gonna do anything in that week. But every other week, you're only doing $750, right? So instead of just doing the subscriptions, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to the farmer's market, right? And we know our farmer's market can handle $500 worth of sales, right? So we're gonna put together $500 for the farmer's market, and every second week we're going to go to the farmer's market. So what are we going to bring down to the farmer's market? And this is where the point, the gist of what I'm trying to get at is, right? You know what you're trying to do that could lead to success. So you're making decisions aimed towards that success, right? Like before when we're making $1,000 to bring down to the market, our goal is to make the bouquets that will sell $1,000 the most, right? But now when we're going to the farmer's market, our goal isn't to create the bouquets that are going to sell the best at the farmer's market because the farmer's market isn't our goal. Selling $1,000 at the farmer's market isn't our goal. Our goal is to sell $1,000 in our subscription service. So what we're going to bring down to the farmer's market is not going to be $20 bouquets anymore, right? What we're going to bring down to the farmer's market is we're going to bring down $25 bouquets and we're going to bring down $40 bouquets. And most importantly, we're going to bring a pamphlet. We're going to have pamphlets that we're handing out about signing up for our subscription service, right? So we're going to have examples of what our subscriptions look like, and when you talk to people at the farmers market, the conversations that you're going to be having aren't the fact that, oh, come see me next week. I'm here every week. Like, I'm here for the entire farmers market season. That's not the conversations that you're going to be having. The conversations that you're having is, oh, we have this subscription. If you sign up, it's so incredible. Like, having one of these bouquets every week, everything's farm fresh. It's always in season. The best of the season. Oh, when you come pick it up, you can check out the farm, see how the farm is changing. Oh yeah, well, I had so many people. I bought my mom, like all my friends bought their moms these $40 bouquet subscriptions for Christmas gifts. They're such an amazing gift idea. Oh yeah, the $25. Men bought this like crazy for Mother's Day. You're down at the market, you're selling your subscriptions. Right? Because your goal is to not be at the market. Your goal is to eventually fill all these subscription slots and stop doing the market. And when you stop doing the market, who knows? Maybe you can turn this $40 subscription. Maybe now you can run that. Maybe you could have like 10 of them, 10 slots. Right? You're not doing the market anymore. You can afford to do 10 of the $40 slots. And you still have them every second week, but maybe there's actually 20 slots because you are like, oh, the first and third week of the month is sold out, but we've opened up the second and the fourth week. And if your day is just putting together the $40 bouquets and the $25 bouquets at the farm, helping people pick them up here and there, then you don't have to pay this retail cost, right? You're saving money, you're being more profitable. But are you losing money at the farmer's market? And this is the thing that I found really interesting about when I broke down this number. And the answer is that no, you're not necessarily losing money at the farmer's market when you go to the farmer's market to sell your subscription service, because you're bringing down your extra subscription bouquets, right? Like one of the ways to make money on the farm, like, and this is the logic of all farms, right? The reason why I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the joke, like, I spent $128 so I could get this $2 tomato as a home gardener, right? It's funny because it's true, right? You spend all this effort, all this money to grow this garden that doesn't necessarily make sense in just food cost, right? Home gardeners, you grow your garden as a hobby, right? Like you're doing it for the joy of growing, not necessarily to get the cheapest food possible, right? And so it's kind of the same idea with farms. When you're a small scale farm, things cost more, right? The labor costs are higher because you don't have as many efficiencies, right? If I go out right now and I pick the flowers to make 5 bouquets for the roadside stand, it is going to cost me a lot more in like labor dollars per bouquet than what it costs me when I make the $1,500 for the farmer's market, right? Because there's all these efficiencies and streamlines in making a mass produced product as opposed to a one-off product, right? So the kind of interesting thing about these numbers is because what you're going to be doing when you're making the bouquets for your farmer's market is you're actually going to be making your farmer's market bouquets at the same time as you're making your CSA bouquets. Your labor to do this $500 worth of bouquets is kind of only just going to be a little bit more tacked on to your $750 production day, right? So, like I was saying, it was costing me $720 to produce $1,500 worth of flowers. And so then I needed to, when I added in the market fee, I needed to hit $1,000 worth of sales to be at the break-even point, and anything more than that I did was profit. You know, if you're making $500 worth of your subscription bouquets, you know, and you know you're doing $1,500, it is costing you $720, but you're selling 750 of it as the subscription. You're taking the rest of it to the farmer's market. Your total sales for that, you know, production shift is going to be $1,250 if you sell everything, which means that you are going to be covering the market fee. You are going to be covering your labor to produce everything. You know, you probably would, you know, there's going to be some extra labor for doing the CSA, like the subscriptions. Subscriptions aren't free. They do take labor. But it is easy to imagine that the labor on a subscription is going to be less than the $250, right? So, you know, and even if it wasn't, right, you're still going to be at break even. So if you are going to the farmer's market, you know, and this I thought was really interesting. This is why I wanted to show you guys. If you're going to the farmer's market with your goal to support something that's really profitable for you, you can potentially still afford to go to the farmer's market and not even necessarily be losing money, right? Because your $500 in sales, you know, they're covering your $250 farmer's market cost. You know, you're selling $250 worth of product, and, you know, even greater than that, you're getting untold amounts of, you know, advertising dollars and getting to talk up your subscription service, which has a higher potential of profitability. So my takeaway is, you know, maybe if I can build the roadside stand to the point that I'm doing really good sales at the roadside stand over the weekends, so that I am actually, you know, it is making sense for me to, you know, have a streamlined production, like my Thursday, Friday production days, and I'm making $1,500 worth of flowers, you know, and I'm selling 750 of them at the stand, which I'm not doing yet. That's like, I need to grow the stand. And then I'm at the farmer's market, you know, and I'm bringing 750, but I'm only selling $500 of it. It's not a great market. Maybe it is still worth it for me if I'm at the market and I'm talking up the roadside stand. If I'm like, oh, you got to check out the roadside stand, you know, it's so amazing. We have on-farm events on Saturday evenings. We do a bouquet bar. We have a U-pick on Sundays. You know, like there's lots of ideas that we can do for our business that isn't completely giving up on, you know, all the flower math that we've previously done. There's lots of ideas that Ian and I can take away of shifts, like pivots that can, you know, tweak the math away from, this isn't working, this is failing, and into, okay, yeah, this is working, and we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So I don't know if that is at all helpful for you guys, or if that's just like number word vomit. But that's like what I think about all day, every day outside when I'm like picking all my flowers and I'm thinking about all the ways for the business to be able to eventually get to the point that, you know, makes sense for us to keep doing this, you know, like 25 years from now. I know that took me forever, but I'll do some questions, you know, especially if you guys have, if you have any questions about the math specifically, that's great. But feel free to ask anything. You know, I can stick around and do 15 minutes worth of questions if you want. Put them in capitals. The chat has been really quiet, so I'm assuming that I should be able to check them out. Oh, but I'll show you guys what I've got here. So Ian and I were filming some really exciting stuff, some secret content that I'm not ready to reveal what it is yet. But we're getting close to being able to reveal. But there's some good stuff in this bucket. Look, I picked some Lisianthus and they're in here. Ugh, like look at that. Aren't these beautiful? I was like staring. So all my blue Lisianthus are blooming right now, and I bought like every single color. I bought all of the like every color in the ABC Lisianthus, but so now because they're blooming side by side, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, because I had like 4 different colors of blue. I had like blue Lisianthus, purple Lisianthus. This is a misty blue, and you can kind of see they're darker on the top, but they're like ombre. They're ombre colored. And then we also got like a blue rim. I don't have any pic to show you guys, but the blue rim's cool because it's just like the outside edge. And I thought that the rim styles were gonna be my favorite, but the misty, I really like these misty ones. Okay, let's see. Got some questions here. Diversity, prepaid CSA bouquets, you pick flower farm, contact photographers, promote your business, take beautiful photos. Yeah, no, and totally. Like so this is the problem with being a farmer's market business. And this is like if you come to me and you're like, Serena, I'm starting a flower farm, I'm gonna sell at the farmer's market. I'm gonna say to you, I'm like, that's probably a bad idea. You probably don't want to sell at the farmer's market, because as I showed you with the numbers are tricky with the farmer's market. We have an incredible farmer's market. Our farmer's market has potential for sales that's greater than a lot of other people's markets. But the problem with a farmer's market is it eats up your entire weekend, right? So we could never consider doing events. We could never consider doing weddings because we don't have time. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, full time. We're fully booked. We're doing farmers markets. And if we're doing farmers markets and we're selling $1,500 and the labor is $1,000, right? Then that's great. That's a good profit. We enjoy doing farmers markets. I like making $20 bouquets. That's good for me. But, maybe if farmers markets don't work, maybe I need to be thinking like, okay, what if I take on a wedding, right? Like if I'm not doing the farmers markets, then my weekends are open. There's other things that I can do. There's other options that become available to me that we just haven't allowed ourselves to consider because the goal all along had been to be a farmer's market business. And, when we take that focus out, it brings up lots of like really great other options. Is the final farm stage wholesale peony farm? So no. One of the very, very first farm business ideas was wholesale peony farm. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So the one problem with being like in high intensity peonies is they are susceptible to fungal disease. And if your entire business is a single cash crop, then it's hard to not be using any sort of sprays. And so because peonies are susceptible to fungal diseases, most peony farms are going to be doing preventative antifungal sprays, either organic or non-organic. And we didn't want to be doing any sort of sprays. We just didn't want to be working with that kind of product. So only peonies isn't the plan. So we're planting a ton of peonies. We bought $10,000 worth of peonies this year that are coming for the fall. They were expensive because they're from unicorn blooms, so they're really beautiful. They're like the ones that we got last year. So right now I think we have 300 planted, and I think I ordered another 1,000. So it's like, that is a lot of peonies, because peonies can produce 10 stems per plant once they're established. And so, if I have 1,300 peonies, that would be 13,000 peony stems. One thing I've been saying to Ian is, I was like, we're going to need more coolers. We're not going to need it yet, but we need to be prepared, because 3 years from now, we're going to need to be able to long-term store peonies, because we're not going to be able to sell. We're not going to be able to sell like thousands and thousands of peonies just super fast. But 13,000 peonies sounds like a lot of peonies, but it also isn't, right? Like, it's like, if we blew them out, if we did like 10, like, here, decadent, super cheap peony bouquets. We're gonna do 10 stem peony bouquets for $30. What a deal. Oh my God, such a good deal. Like, the peony season is quite long. This year the peonies were like, boop, it was like the tulips. They should have been 6 weeks, and then they all bloomed out in 2 weeks. Peonies, kind of same thing, should be 6 weeks. They bloomed out in 2 weeks. But peony season for sure. Like, very comfortably a 6-week season. If we had 13,000 of them and we just bunched them into 10 stem bunches, the labor on that's pretty low, and we'd only have to sell 1,300 of them. You divide that across 6 weeks, and it's like it's 200. It's 200 a week, and 200 bouquets a week is like, whoa, that's a lot of bouquets. But we also, we've been getting pretty close to 200 a week on like our decent weeks, right? Like, we're very behind on the videos. We've been filming, so I don't know where we left off for like what kind of volume we're producing. But so I have a friend who helps me on Fridays. She comes in for 5 hours, give me a hand. And then Nellie, our employee this year, she's also here for the day on Fridays. And the three of us, we've been like pumping out like more than 100 bouquets, not a problem, on a Friday. So the idea of like doing that twice in a week, on something that's as simple as just bunches of peonies, it's like, oh yeah, easy. And then maybe I can wholesale them, right? Next farm tour, when? Okay, so we filmed a farm tour last night, and we're working on editing it. So I think it's going to be coming out on Friday, and it looks really good. I was like, Ian, we need to film a farm tour, because like today I went and I picked lots of status, but there's a bunch of things that I needed to pick, and I was like, we need to do a farm tour before I pick all this, because it looks really nice right now, and it's going to look slightly less nice by tomorrow once I get a bunch of picking done. Someone's saying those are beautiful, save some seeds. I don't know what I was holding up. Maybe, oh, the Lysianthus? Yeah, I don't know. Definitely not going to save seeds on Lysianthus, because I'm refused to grow up from seed. I'm just going to buy in plugs. Any plans to bring back seedling sale? What about seedling sales for landscape or floral scapes? Yes. That is like one of the big things, right? So, like I said, up until this point, we've been like a farmer's market business. Like, all of our focus has been like, how can we like do really good on the farmer's market? But our kind of epiphany has been that, hey, maybe this roadside stand business is like where the focus really should be. And so I had leftover tomatoes, like seedlings from growing my own tomatoes. So, and I have all these pots that I like have just stacked up. And like I have Nellie here, so I had some more man hours. I was like, Nellie, you know what? Let's just pot these up. Let's like get these growing. So I potted them up. I like had no real plans for them. And then they were over, like, it was like, okay, they're ready. Like, and it was really late in the season. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to go throw them at the road. I'm going to put them in front of the roadside stand. Maybe they'll sell. And we ended up in a week selling like 100 tomato plants for like 0 effort. The reason why we got rid of the seedling sale was because of the fact that it was a lot of work. It was a lot of labor, and the customers who came to the seedling sale weren't customers that ever came back ever again to the farm. So what our plan is going to be is we are going to grow like a lot of like landscaping type plants. Because people like flowers, right? So we'll grow some perennials out, have them available in pots. One thing I'm really excited about is having peonies available. We have a lot of these 1-gallon pots, so I'm like, let's sell some peonies, right? Like let's get people hyped on the fact that we're gonna have all these peonies coming soon. We're getting close. Like we're year 3 this year on our first bed of like perennials. Pretty soon a lot of our perennials are going to need dividing, and potting them up and putting them out at the roadside stand is incredible, right? Because if we have plants like that, we could sell them all year long. So yeah, like we really much are thinking about a seedling sale for the roadside stand, doing some veggies during the veggie season, and then maybe all year having garden plants, perennials, shrubby type things like the peonies, that kind of stuff, just always available. The fact that the roadside stand is self-serve, it changes the numbers so much. It's really incredible. Okay, does the farm have potential capacity for a U-pick business? So the idea of a U-pick business has always been a problem because you can't really see the flower farm from the road. So there's no if we had a U-pick flowers sign, no one would be able to see the flowers, right? And the way the farm itself is set up, it's like it would even me picking on the farm, like Ian's not allowed to walk into the farm by August because of how I have everything planted. It's not set up for any human being to pick, let alone retail customers to pick. But the great thing about U-pick is that it could be a source of excitement for the farm. So we would need to set up a U-pick area specifically, right? We'd have to build something that is for the U-pick. I was saying to Ian, hey, maybe we build 10 raised beds, right? And we plant it out for U-pick customers. We have it run during, it's not available all year. It's only available, July, August, September. July, August, and September are at this point, we are slowing down on the planting, so we have a little bit more time. If we're not doing the farmers markets, if our entire weekend isn't eaten up by the labor and the pressure of doing the farmers markets, now it opens up the ability to be here and to be hosting, U-pick. And U-pick on its own doesn't make sense because we are limited for parking. So it would have to be something where people reserve their U-pick for specific time slots, because we'd have to manage traffic into our parking area. And the amount of sales that we would make wouldn't cover the labor hours to be hosting the U-pick. It would be very expensive labor-wise versus total dollars spent. So what would then make sense is to pair a U-pick, the evenings that we do U-pick to also be paired with a bouquet bar. And it would be kind of like an on-farm event. The idea of it would be, like I said about the farmer's market, if you're going to the farmer's market and the purpose of the farmer's market is to sell your subscription service, then what you sell at the farmer's market isn't as much of the calculation as how many more subscriptions you fill, right? So getting people more invested, more excitement about the farm itself would then lead to more sales at the roadside stand. It'd be kind of advertising. So, it's something that I think that we could do, and it would make sense. But it's not like, oh, you picks are a great business idea. They are sometimes. Okay, someone's asking about glads, and my first ones bloomed. I sold my first ones, but I have some in a bucket, so I'm gonna grab it. Because they look so good. Okay, look at that. My first ones. They finally started. I was starting to be nervous. I was being very nervous. I was like, I don't know. Maybe they're not going to bloom. Maybe they're not going to do anything. And I laugh, right? Because so the very first glads that I planted on the farm were glads that I bought last spring, and then they sat in my fridge all year. They didn't get planted. I planted half of them, but the second half, I didn't keep up with the successions. So I was like, I don't know that these are going to do anything. They might be dead. I was like, but let's plant them anyways. And they worked. They survived, because I know for sure that these are them, because these are the colors. These are the colors that I had. There was 5 colors, and I was like, oh yeah, these are them. So, yay, exciting, glads. They're back. They're back on the farm, and we'll have them until the freeze comes. Hopefully, so the glad video that I did, in it, I was like, oh, these glads are so good. Why didn't I buy more? What was I doing? And pretty much as soon as I filmed that video, I went and I bought another 1,300 glads. So, in total, we're going to have a lot of glads this year. Fingers crossed that they'll sell, but we'll see. I love the bouquet bar idea. It would be fun for a girls' night if you include wine. So I probably wouldn't include wine, because that would be encouraging people to drink and drive. And I don't like the legal implications of people having wine at my house and then driving away from my business. It just makes me very nervous. But yeah, we could have flowers, and then I could be like, oh, and then go to the winery up the road. Or I could get a winery to host me for doing like a flower arranging thing. Who will be your peony customers? So after I just made an entire whiteboard about not doing build it and they will come. My peony customers are build it and they will come is my plan. So they I know that I'm it's only 1,300 bouquets. That's only 200 peony bouquets a week. That's nothing. It's gonna take a long time until we're there, right? That's gonna be I haven't even planted my 1,000 peonies yet, right? We're year one. The peonies that I was picking off of this year are peonies that I planted when we moved here. They were blowout at the grocery store, and so they're year 5, and they kind of only just produced well this year. So I'm not expecting even at year 3 to have some crazy high production. So it's the peonies are planted now with the plan that we want to be selling 300, 200, 300, 400 bouquets a week, right? So the idea of the peonies is to have them there so that we'll have them to support the volume that we're going to be able to grow over the next few years, and then also to have them available to florists, right? Our other plan is we want to start kind of building up a wholesale side of our flower farm. We have 100 beds. You can grow so many flowers in a bed of flowers. So part of why we planted the peonies is we needed to tie up some of the land. It's too much space to maintain for flowers. Veggies the labor's just a little lower on flowers. So I needed to kind of like, okay, how can I bring down the labor? And the peonies was like, okay, peonies are pretty low maintenance. We can use up a bunch of this area by putting peonies in, and then the farm's going to feel a lot less overwhelming. And they're perennials, right? If we don't have customers, they go in the compost and then they're back again next year, right? So I'm not overly nervous about the number of peonies that we've planted. If I ripped out everything and became a peony farm, then I'd be like, what am I going to do? But, like what did I plant them at? They're like 75 per bed is how I planted them, or maybe even tighter, 100 per bed, right? So I like right now I have 4 beds where the peonies, and I assume there's probably going to be about 15 beds in total for peonies. So everything, like when you get it to a farm scale, right? Like numbers start to be less intimidating. Oh, thank you so much, Mother Nature's Apothecary. Are you planning on growing more perennials, and have you considered planting dogwoods, hydrangeas, etc.? I love your content and pray for your success. Oh, thank you so much. So I don't want to go too hard on shrubs. Our property is only 2.5 acres. If we had 5 acres, that would change the math. But the reality is the amount of space that I have is a little overwhelming in annual flowers. The amount of space I have would be difficult to produce the volume that I want if I was kind of planting shrubs into most of it. The amount of space they take up is significant. We really want to get hydrangeas in though. We like Annabelle and Limelight. Those are the ones that I want to get. And the plan for those is we want to grow them along the fence line at the bottom. So, we're not necessarily talking about putting in a lot. It'd kind of be like maybe 15 of each, and then it would look beautiful to have them blooming along the fence and be like, oh, they're so pretty. And then we could leave them to enjoy. And then, if we did do a wedding, then we'd have them there to pick, to have available, but we wouldn't necessarily grow them in production, because they wouldn't necessarily be in line with like the $20 bouquets that we do. They're kind of more for like event work. But when it comes to like other perennials, like I'm getting really serious about perennials. Just because I need to be managing my time. I need to be managing like the labor on the farm. We've been pouring a lot of hours into the farm. We're year 5 now, and it's not sustainable, right? I'm 39. Like I still have energy, but I recognize that I can't burn myself out on the farm if I want to being able to keep farming forever, right? Like what I said, I need the farm to be profitable so I can keep farming forever. I also need the amount of labor that the farm takes to be, like 50 hours a week, not 1,000 hours a week, so that I can keep farming forever too. So, there's things that I have been not wanting to do because I didn't want to like tie up. I wanted the farm to be able to pivot really quickly. So even like the planting out the peonies, that's kind of a big shift in perspective because that's a commitment, right? I have to wait years until they're ready and they stay good for a very, very long time. So, I like my mindset's changing because I'm kind of like, well, if something happened, maybe we're not going to be able to keep farming, right? So if the farm is set up in a way that maybe doesn't make us $200,000 off of 2.5 acres, but it can make us $50,000 off of perennials sold wholesale, without labor that is going to, overwhelm us. Then that makes a lot of sense. Because like health things happen, like life happens, right? So we want the farm to be a little bit more resilient, and perennials are a huge part of that. So I'm planting. I haven't done it yet. I said I was going to do it last week, and I haven't done it yet. So this week, I'm committing right here, right now, that this week it's going to happen. I'm planting. I want to plant out, a couple hundred of the Famus gabiosas. I want a bed of the blue. I want a bed of the white. I want to plant out lemon balm. I want like a bed of lemon balm. I want to plant out a half bed of catnip. I want to plant out, another half bed of the bergamot the bee balm that I've been really happy with. There's a bunch of perennials that I have from seed that if I get them started, I can get them planted for the fall and have them be really happy. And then other things that we're going to invest into a lot more heavily is sedum. Sedum, I hoard my sedum, and I've also killed it this year by watering my yarrow. So I'm going to set up a new bed of sedum, and I'm going to plant out so much sedum that I can use sedum all year long. As it is now, I have like 300 plants of sedum, and I save it until the frost comes, because it's one of the few things on the farm that survives the frost. But I love it as just when it's green before the flowers open up. So I could happily be picking off sedum, 3 or 4 months of the year if I had enough sedum to be able to pick 3 or 4 months worth. We've been loving the phlox. I don't have any. Right before this video, I had a bucket of them, but right before this video, we've been selling flowers so much today, I had to put them together. We have all these perennial phlox that are on year 2, and I'm like, maybe more of this would be nice. Solidago has been amazing. More Baptisia. I'm really excited about some of these smaller perennials, not the shrubby type stuff, that works really good in my bouquets that I can plant onto plastic. And I can my plan is like the further the farm is away from the building, the lower maintenance I want it. So down to the bottom of the farm, it would be great to have perennials on landscape fabric, automated irrigation. All I have to do is kind of weed them a couple times a year, give them a fertilizer here and there, and harvest them, and then I can kind of narrow in my annual production more into like covered growing spaces. These are the things that I think about. I'm like, how can I do it for less? How can I work less and still have lots? Can you carry insurance that covers your hoop houses? So my insurance, like our insurance, I'm assuming it covers the hoop houses. But the hoop houses, like, cause this is a comment we got on the tornado video. They're really cheap. they don't actually cost very much money. So, they're kind of like $2,000 to replace. And we're going to be able to actually salvage half of the hoop house that got destroyed. And so our deductible on the insurance is high enough that it would cost us more money to use our insurance than what it would cost to just replace the greenhouse ourselves. So I made a comment at this, but I know I made it separate because we've just been really busy, because I haven't had time to get back to people on comments lately. In the video, I don't know how much of this translated. Sometimes things get lost in the edit, but in the video, I was really focused on did it destroy? Because I was worried because it landed on top of my zinnia beds. And I was like, oh no, if we just lost all of my zinnias for the year. Every bed of zinnias is worth like $1,000, $2,000 for me. So to think that the greenhouse falling down had taken out my zinnias, that was the money cost that I would have been that I would have been very sad to have lost. So the fact that when the tunnel ripped up, it didn't actually injure any of the plants is a huge part of the reason why I wasn't so stressed about the damage that had happened. Like it could have been so much worse. How will you not have to spray your peonies? Because my peonies are not a cash crop, right? Like, or they are a cash crop, but because I'm not a monoculture, right? Because I'm not growing only peonies, I'm just growing some peonies that are part of my flower production. Having like if something was to happen to my peonies, there are other ways that I could manage it, right? Like, so if the peonies were like, oh, they're looking kind of diseased, I could cut all the foliage back. There are things that you have to do to like manage disease. You don't want to leave like peony foliage, like you want to remove it from the property instead of composting it. And but yeah, if I was a monoculture, and something happened to the farm, it's a lot more of a risk and a cost. Oh, what was here? He's coming to be snuggly. So because of it being a risk, you do these preventative things, right? But because if something happened, if my peonies don't produce for a year, it's not going to be make or break for my farm business. Then it gives me like more options for having to deal with problems when they arise, rather than needing to be more proactive because of just the structure of the business. I don't know if that makes sense, but any idea for value-added floral products like salves, teas, and oils? Know you do dried flowers and ornaments. What about wreaths? Okay, so if we were to, right, because we grow herbs. People say this one to me a lot, and it's a little bit complicated of an answer. But so basically, the herbs that we have, Bo, you're so cute. The herbs that we have, we harvest them once they flower, because the herbs, once they flower, are a lot less likely to wilt after harvesting them. They have better vase life, and they're easier to harvest and to hydrate. So all of our herbs, we don't harvest until they flower. Because we don't harvest them until they flower, we're actually harvesting them at the wrong time for culinary purposes. So if we were to dry them to turn them into teas, it wouldn't make the best tea. And then the other problem is where we are, tea, like drying food products. So like making teas, they are a product that you have to do in a commercial kitchen. So it's not so simple. Even if we were to take the herbs, if we were like, oh, well, we're not going to need this many this year, so let's harvest them at the right time. And we harvested them, we couldn't just, I have like a bunch of flowers hanging above me here, but I couldn't do what I do when I dry the flowers. I couldn't just hang them up and then crush them and sell them as tea, because of the fact that they would need to be processed. I need to get a dehydrator and go down to a commercial kitchen. I need to, take like food processing courses, like, which I could do, but it just doesn't make sense, right? Because it's like, how many teas am I going to sell, right? Like how much is it going to cost me to produce the product and all that. One thing that we've talked about for years, is soap. I don't know if they're still up on the channel, but if you look back, right, like 6 years ago, before we started a farm, I was like learning about making soap. I really like making soap. And, it's kind of been like oh, hey, like what about making a soap making business? And you know, get out the whiteboard, right? Every time you start a new business, right? And the reality is adding a new product line up to your existing business is starting a new business, right? So like making soap isn't having a $40 bouquet and a $20 bouquet. It's starting a soap making company. And so when we've pulled out the whiteboard and we've done the math for what it would what would be my labor costs, because I've like made soap, you know, and I can like go and look at what wholesale costs would be for soap making supplies, you know, this and that, like what are my estimated sales, you know, Ian and I are in an incredibly privileged position when it comes to making businesses because there's so many of you guys who are willing to support us, right? So we're kind of like on cheat mode for starting businesses. We can kind of start with a little bit of a customer base that other people might not have. But even when we've crunched numbers, assuming a bunch of you guys would want to support us, the kind of the amount, oh, Bo, you're so cute, but you're so fat. Oh, I love you. The amount of soap, like basically like starting a soap company would be like a $10,000 business, but the amount of labor that it would take, we would be better off to be putting into trying to make our YouTube a little bit better. We'd be better off putting the effort into trying to make the flowers a little bit better. It doesn't necessarily make sense for us at this point to be adding a bunch of products just because we are pretty filled up when it comes to time, right? The one thing we need is more time, not more things to fill our time. So you know we're trying to be careful about that, but you know as things change, you know we're always considering new stuff. The math doesn't add up yet. Why don't you do flower crowns, boutonnieres, and corsages? So we aren't a full service florist, right? Like we do special orders. Like if someone was like, oh, I have a birthday party, I want a $30 bouquet. You know, I'm like, oh, give me a call. I'll like make you one. Like, but the roadside stand's so convenient that we don't even necessarily get very much of that anymore. And yeah, like I'm not a florist, right? So those kind of products I don't make. I don't have the supplies on hand to do it. I do them sometimes for the video because they're fun, right? Like so I'll be like, oh, let's make a flower crown and put it in the video, and then we can wear it. You know, I found this like cheat mode for making flower crowns. I get a headband and I just like wrap them onto a headband. And then I'm like, oh, look, it's like easy this way. But like the amount of time that it takes, it would not make sense for me to sell it. I can make like $300 worth of $20 flower bouquets in an hour. And it takes me like an hour to make a flower crown, and I definitely cannot sell that for $300. It's the same as like the soap making business, right? The more streamlined things are, the more time I have to focus on the things that, you know, are going to make us money, you know, and we need to be, you know, just trying to guard our time and our energy, because it's not infinite. Okay, let's see. What is your favorite job at the farm? Bo, he's so, oh, I got to the end. Okay, this is my last question, then I gotta go. Bo needs the snuggles. Okay, my favorite job on the farm. Oh, so it is pretty fun. It is pretty fun to put all the bouquets together. You know, I'd say like one of my favorite part about being a farmer, right? Because so I have been gardening, like I've been a home gardener for 20 years now. And you know, like I really like growing stuff. It's really fun. It's really satisfying for me. It's always a miracle to see like these little seeds grow into, you know, these amazingly productive plants. Like every time I'm just amazed at how growing is magic. But the one thing that you don't get to do when you're a gardener that you get to do when you're a farmer, and especially when you're a farmer's market farmer, is you don't get to pick like a mountain of something, right? Like when you are a home gardener, you go and you pick what you need, but if you pick more than you need, it's just going to go to waste, right? So my absolute favorite part about being a farmer is that you get to go and you get to pick like 1,000 of something, right? Because that's just like, it doesn't make sense, right? When I'm talking about like, oh, well, I'm only going to have 13,000 peonies. That's like, don't worry, guys. It'll be fine as long as I get a second walk-in cooler. 13,000 peonies is no big deal. You know, that's kind of my favorite part. And I get to experience it every week with the farmers market in like so many different ways. Because first I get to go, like on Thursdays, I go and I pick like an entire cooler. I fill the cooler with flowers. I just pick and I pick and I pick and I pick. And then when it's done, I like stand back and it's just like a wall of flowers. And I'm like, oh, there's so many flowers in here. And I love it. And then on Fridays, I get to take them all out of the cooler and I fill this room that I'm in with flowers, and there's just like flowers everywhere. And like, you know, I love, because every bucket is its own type of flower. Because when I go and I pick, you know, I'm like, okay, I need a whole bucket of this. I need a whole bucket of that. You know, I need 100 of this stem. I need 200 of this. So they really are en masse. And when it was veggies, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, just mountains, carts and carts worth of carrots, and like all the tomatoes. But yeah, so I bring the flowers in here, and they're all in their buckets, and they look incredible all together. And these buckets are just filled with the exact same thing. And then we start making the bouquets, and you know, it looks amazing when it's all the same stuff, but as you know, because I get like sucked into the work, and I like working. I like having work to do. So it's really satisfying for me to have a busy day ahead of me, and I get sucked into the work, and then in my head I'm all like, oh, but how many hours am I spending, and is blue status more profitable than apricot status? Like maybe what should I do? You know, I'm in my head about things. And then I step back at when the bouquets are done. I'm like, okay, we're all done. And then I look, and it's like, it's gone from being just buckets of ingredients to like a room full of bouquets, right? It's like 100 bouquets, right? Like you've never even seen 100 bouquets in like the grocery store. Like 100 bouquets is like an insane number of bouquets. And then the best part is when you take all those and then you go down to the farmer's market and you put them out on display in the way that is like the most beautiful way possible to show them off. And then it's like, oh, then it's like the pinnacle, right? That's the climax. That's like the moment. Which is part of the reason why it's hard for us to give up on the farmer's market, because it's just so fun to like take this abundance and like put it out, and then just like take a moment and be like, oh, okay, it looks so good. And that is my favorite part of farming. Getting to have a pile the amount of like 100 people's worth of something, right? So like 100 bunches of carrots or 100 bouquets, to have more than any one person ever needs, all in one place, you know, and then it disappears and turns into money. And I like that part too. Okay, thank you guys so much. Thanks for helping out. Thanks for sticking around. and letting me rant about numbers and business planning, things that I really like and I don't get to talk about very often. So thank you. One piece of news. So we're trying to get some videos out. We've been busy on the farm. We've been trying to catch up on some stuff. So we got stuff coming. We're backed up on vlogs. We're gonna get caught up. And then also next week, because I've lost track of July, which is the story of my life. I lose track of the days. But next week is this time slot, this Monday night, is going to be for the members. Because the first Monday of the month is when we do our members live, and it's in this same time slot. So if you guys are members, I'll see you guys there. I'll go schedule it. And the way to find it is I make a community post that has a link to the private video. And if you guys aren't members, then I'll see you the week after that.